All right, here we go. Picking up. Come on now, where was I? Have some fun. What page am I on? ABC. Oh, being convinced, we stood at the step fourth paragraph. The first requirement, now Bill's going to go back into a little problem a bit. Notice on the right-hand page, it lays out what the steps are. Steps 1 through 5, we make peace with God. Steps 6 through 8, we make peace with ourselves. 9 through 11, we make peace with others. And then the 12th step is about keeping the peace. See, we get a lot of peace as we go through these steps. If we want to keep them, we got to give it away. Being convinced, let's see, the first requirement is being convinced that a life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always on a collision with something or somebody. Even though our motives are good, most people try to live on self-propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players to his own way. If, page 61, his arrangement would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. He's going into our selfishness and our pride again. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor, you can put your own name there, may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is more likely to have varied traits. There are different forms of self, all of those. Don't think too highly or lowly of ourselves. What usually happens, the show doesn't come off well, and he begins to think that life didn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more the self-will. God wants surrender, not self-exertion. He wants us to surrender to him, but we instinctively push more of ourselves out. He becomes, on the next occasion, still more demanding or gracious. They're opposites. Bill's going to start introducing us to the law of opposites, because when we get to the fourth step, that's where it starts. There's a whole teaching that I think many of you may not have heard that we're going to get into when we get there. As the case may be, still the play doesn't suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he is sure that the other people were more to blame. Come on now. He did it. She made me eat that apple. He became angry and indignant, self-pitying. What is the basic trouble? Is it not really that he is a self-seeker? Self-seekers want to look good when they know that they're not. It's the flip side of selfishness. Even when trying to be kind, is he not a victim of the delusion that he could wrench satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only managed it well? What a delusional belief that is, right? My Lord. Is it not evident that to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, in even the best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? God is not about confusion. There's no confusion there. Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. He is like a retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine. In the winter, complaining about the state of the nation. The minister who sighs over the sins of the world. There it is again. The 20th century politician, the reformer, who is sure it would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave, right? That's modern politics. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him, and the alcoholic who has lost all and is locked up. Whatever our protestations are, that's our passionate declarations, are not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, our self-pity. Bang, he's just calling you out. Selfish, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of the problem. Put your finger on this page, turn to page 260. In the back of the book, it talks about sin and selfishness, and we're going to look at it real quick, and then we're going to get back, and I'm going to have you put your finger on another page back here when we're done. So this gets called out on the A page of 62, and it says sin and selfishness. You ready? Let's define selfishness, and let's define how that works with our sin nature. The early AAs used the Oxford Group's term to describe sin. Sin was defined as anything that kept one from God or one another. And something as contagious as a bodily disease. That's in quotes. So when Bill started talking about the disease, he was talking about sin. That's where the meaning comes from. Bill described sin as the real disease that we're fighting. Bill preferred to call the sins the defects of character. So when we go look at our defects of character, what are we looking at? We're looking at our old nature, who we were before the decision. Now we can either hold on to those things or we can let them go. My Creator, I am now willing that you have all of them, good and bad. Take them away. If I do that every day, I start every day off right. I may fall back on one of those, but they're gone at that moment. Here we go. I believe Bill rephrased these in order to remove a prejudiced notion, any preconceived notion or perception of sin from the newcomer. The Oxford Group definition is a good one, a good starting point, but clearly put, sin is simply missing the mark. The most common explanation for the concept of sin comes from the Greek word hamarita, meaning missing the mark. Think of the center of a dartboard. The bullseye is the goal of the game of darts, is to hit the bullseye. If you don't, you have missed the mark. So it is with recovery. We must learn where the mark is, and if we miss the mark, we try again until we hit it. Over time, you will begin to get better and better at hitting the mark. Pretty simple, right? We want to do it right the first time all the time, or it doesn't work. Yet we'll go to a bar and we'll play darts for months trying to learn how to do that. Many people think of sin as law-breaking or the corruption of what is good. There is, however, another definition which bears considerable consideration, especially to the real alcoholic, that sin is simply selfishness. And selfishness comes from misdirected pride. Sin occurs when one's attitudes and actions serve oneself at the detriment of others or our relationship with God. Bang. That's how it happens. Whatever the manifestation in gossiping, losing our temper, or drinking excessively, selfishness is sin and sin is selfishness. But selfishness and sin is not the only about our thoughts and our action. It goes much deeper. Here it comes. It is a matter of our internal identity. The Bible teaches us that God creates us to be in relationship with Him and our lives, and to live our lives in service to Him. In our sin or selfishness, we are seeking to operate independent of God. Biggest lie on the planet. We're only powered by the Spirit of truth or the Spirit of error. Man has no power on his own. What dwells in you? To create an identity apart from Him. Identity in God and identity in oneself are as opposite as light and dark. How can we seek God and at the same time believe we are operating independently from Him? That is why the Bible reminds us that we have all sinned and we all fall short of the mark. Do you acknowledge God as the Creator and the ultimate authority? Or do you find yourself listening to your sin selfishness, which is to say, I'll be my own God right now, thank you very much. Or I'll find an easier, soft way. This God stuff isn't for me. But to begin dealing with sin and selfishness trap, we must the first requirement is to give our wills and our lives, the third steps, and you need to quit playing God. We do not have the power to defeat our sin and our selfishness on our own, but there is one who has all power. He came to earth, lived perfectly sinless life, and died so that we could be reconciled with God and receive power we need through His Holy Spirit. It is He who defeats sin, and it is He who will give you the power you need to defeat your alcoholism. If you seek Him, you will come to know God and call Him by name. His name is Jesus Christ. Ask Him to reveal Himself, and He will. That little line about coming to know God and call Him by name comes from 12 and 12. Now that we got our finger back there, we're going to go back to page 62, but I want you to put your finger on page 250 because we're going to flip back and forth. That page talks about the prayers of the four-step. We're going to start hitting them right now. Scotty, where am I? Whereabouts? 62 what? 62:1. Selfish, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of, we got that. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, right? Our selfishness. And the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot. Man, did we have good self-will. We didn't think we had any because we're trying to control this allergy in the body, but in every other part of our life, we're just running on self-propulsion. We're just going. Boy, if we could have just drank the way we wanted to drink, oblivion would have been great. But we can't. So here we stand at the turning point. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of selfishness. Selfishness is sin, and sin is pride. The pride, selfishness, all there. Pride comes before the fall, it says, right? We must, or it will kill us. God makes that possible. It's God who will shift our focus. It's God that will move us. And there often seems to be no way of entirely getting rid of self without Him. Many of us had moral philosophies, convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would like to. Neither could we reduce our selfishness much by wishing them away or trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. Now the big book is going to start to shift. Now we're going to start getting into how we grow in God. By this point, we're going to take step 3, and we're in or we're out. He is all or He is nothing. What is your point to be? And there often seems no way to entirely get rid of it. Where am I? Down here. Okay, sorry. This is the how and why of it. We must quit playing God. Check this out. First, we had to quit playing God. Can I go back to creating God again for just 1 second? If you create your own designer God, aren't you truly playing God? You are. So we tell you, create your own God. No. Whatever you believe God to be at this moment, wherever you start your walk with Him is good enough to make the beginning, more will be revealed. If we go and we make it up, we're truly playing God. And the big book here says that that's the first thing that has to do. We have to quit playing God. It doesn't work. Next, we decided in hereafter the drama of life, God was going to be the director. He is the principal, and we are His agents. He is the Father, and we are His children. And He's a good, good Father. What do you do as a father? There's a lot of men in this room, or a mother, a parent, a child. We're all one of those 3 things. You give your kids everything. You want the best for them. You love them. And you love them enough to make their own mistakes and fall and help them come back up. When they fall down, you help them get up and tell them do it again. Get back on that bike. Pedal faster. Let's go. And we teach them. And now he's saying the relationship with the higher power is as a father to a child. Come on now. Can we just get off the foolishness of what this higher power is and get right to who He is? Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone to a new and triumphant arch that we were going to walk, which passes through to where? Freedom. Go anywhere, do anything. Walk in perfect freedom. No bondage of self. No listening to the tempter. Get behind me. Get out of here. You have no power. You are defeated. Go. Scurry away. Come on. When we sincerely took this position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. What do employers do? They give us work. When we get a new employer, he's going to give us new work. So now you surrender to God. You're going to get freedom, but He's going to give you work to go with it. What's that work? Carry the message. Go forth and tell them all about me and my freedom, my way, my world, my walk. A new employer, being all-powerful, He provided what we needed if we kept close to Him and performed His work well. Step 11. Established on this footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our plans, our designs, and more interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. Bill is just laying it down now. He's not dancing around anymore. He's just laying it down. He's the boss. You're not. He is all. You are nothing. Without him, you won't have the power to run your life at all. You're plugging into the sheetrock. Plug into me. More and more, we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. How do I help others? As we felt, here it comes again, a new power flow in. The Creator has entered into our heart in a way which is indeed miraculous. I put my finger in the socket and the juice is flowing. And we feel it and we know it as we seek it. The more we seek, the more juice we get. You know, I got solar panels on my house, and they just put this little thing on it so I can watch it on my phone. And we have this pump that comes on at like 7 o'clock at night, does some work. And the guy calls me up and he goes, "What do you have going on at 7 o'clock at night? You're sucking down all this juice." See, I needed more power, and I got more. It flows. It comes. When we need more, it comes. We stay close to him, and we get that juice as we need it. We don't have to turn it up, turn it down, think about it. We stay near to him and go about his business, and we receive as we need. As we enjoyed peace of mind, we discovered we could face life successfully. As we became conscious of what? His presence. Come on now. We began to lose our fears of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were, bang! Billy calls it out. I am a new creature. If you look on that right-hand page down at the bottom on the A page, there's about, 12, a dozen or so scriptures all about being new in Christ. He describes to us what it means to be reborn. Bill didn't choose that word because he thought it was cute. He knew what had happened to him. He knew he was new. It's not by accident. It is what it is. Now, here we go. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our makers we understood him. Now he's going to throw in some religious words. The word "thee" means God. God, I offer myself to you, Christ. I offer myself to thee. To build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away the difficulties, that victory over them will bear witness to those I would help. Of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Now, amen is right. Now, that is a prayer of surrender. It's the first prayer. Put your finger in here. Take a look on page 251 where you got your finger. And it says, first, we ask for his protection and care. Boom, the next prayer is right there. We just did it. The prayer of surrender. 2 prayers of surrender. Boy, now we're going to move into what's going to really start moving in our prayer life. We thought well before taking this step, making sure that we were ready, that we could at last abandon ourselves utterly to him. See, this isn't a little prayer you play with. Oh, yeah, you have whatever small God you have now, and you can upgrade later. No. If you're not willing to walk down the road that God's laying down in front of you and these things that Bill Wilson has just proposed, you're probably not going to follow the program because you're not going to have enough courage to do it. So how do I help you? I got to keep talking to you about God. You might be hung up, might have somebody you're working with hung up on that 3rd step for quite a while. Do I move them into the 4th step, or do I keep talking to them about the 3rd step? Do I keep explaining who my God is? Do I keep showing them? Do I keep sharing with them? Do I keep showing up for them? That's what I need to do, because they need the one who has all power, not the doorknob. So here we go. All right. We found this very desirable to take this spiritual step with an understanding person, such as our wives, best friend, or spiritual advisor. But it's better to meet God alone than with one who might misunderstand. The wording was, of course, quite optional, so long as we expressed the ideas, voicing it without reservation. This was only the beginning, though if honestly and humbly made, the effect was sometimes a great one and felt at once. That was my experience. These aren't the words that I said when I took my first 3rd step prayer and received, but they were right along those lines. It's not a religious act where you've got to memorize the verse and that's it. We're not doing a rosary here, but it helps to do that. Memorization verses in the Bible are very good. We have to have one. My very first verse that I ever learned was Galatians 2:20. It was my go-to. Every single time that my mind went crazy, I pulled that one up and I recited it and said, "Get behind me," and moved on. It was the one, I only had to have one that I could anchor my faith to. And that was it for me. What's yours? For lots of people, it'll be this third step prayer that anchors them back to their belief, because it says pretty much all of it. Next, we launched onto a vigorous course of action, the first step of which is a personal house cleaning. Here it comes. Now's when it's going to get good. It's been good. Now we're going to deviate from a lot of what you may think you know. Many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was vital, it's necessary to life, and a crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us, our sin nature. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to cause and effect. So you'll remember earlier on, Bill said almost the same thing. Therefore, we started on a personal house cleaning. Now he's going to describe in this paragraph what it is to take an inventory, and then he's going to give a direction that many people overlook. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and a fact-facing process. It is an effort to discover the truth about our stock in trade. One object is to disclose damage or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If an owner of a business is to be successful, he cannot fool himself about his value. See, we think some of the things that we do have value. We think that some of our self-centered, selfish behaviors have driven success in our life. But here's what he does. Before we get to where everybody likes to start on making the list, look what it says. We did exactly the same thing in our lives. Period. Next sentence. We took stock honestly. Period. Next sentence. First. Highlight the word first. We searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused us failure. What is a flaw in your makeup? It's a character defect. These guys looked at step 6 before they got into the resentments. The old timers did what my sponsor called the law of opposites. Rick, for everything in the universe, there's an opposite. Up, down, hot, cold, right, left, good, evil. Positive, negative. For every sin, there's a virtue. And what we're going to learn here is to pivot. If I know what the virtues are, and I can know my sin nature because I've lived it, I know my selfish behavior. If I know what the virtue is that opposes my anger is forgiveness, when I get angry, Lord, turn me to forgiveness. I have to understand what those things are. And it says, first we sought out the flaws in our makeup, being convinced that self manifested in various ways, remember we said about self, was what had defeated us. We considered its common manifestations. Now put your finger there, turn to page 289. There's a little section in the book, I don't have time to get into it all with you. It's called the Cleveland Way. And when you read about the Cleveland Way, Cleveland was where Clarence Snyder was. Clarence Snyder was taken through the program by Dr. Bob. Cleveland, Ohio is an hour away from where Dr. Bob's hospital was and where Dr. Bob saw Clarence. Clarence got lit up, got on fire, went back to Cleveland, took an ad out in the paper, had people calling him right and left. The wholesale miracle that you hear about took place in Cleveland. Meetings, as we know them today, started in Cleveland. Sober softball started in Cleveland. They would take people through the steps in just a few days. If you read the story of Clarence Snyder and what they did it real quick. So if you look here, there's a whole, I don't have time to read all about Clarence, but turn to the next page, 292, and here is a moral inventory sheet. Their entire inventory that they did back then was looking at this. And I know this because they're still doing this today. The guys out of Florida where Clarence moved and he started a movement. There are still people all over the country following the steps the way Clarence did them. I put them in front of the traditional way that we do it here in the Big Book. So it says, if you look at that little chart, it has on the left liability, on the right asset. There's a negative and a positive. Up, down, right, left, hot, cold, good, evil, light, dark. Spirit of truth, spirit of error. You can't think of anything in God's universe that doesn't have an opposite. You'll always find an opposite. Resentment, forgiveness. fear, courage. And so the exercise with the newcomer, because I want that rock. I want that one thing that he doesn't want to tell anybody. I want to get that off the table before I go into that long list of resentments and angers and setbacks and heartaches that they want to dive into. So if I get that one thing, if I can get them to tell me the one thing they don't want to share with anybody else, and that happens to me all the time. They give me that one thing they haven't been able to do in all the inventories they've tried. And I get it through this process. If you look at resentment and forgiveness, where are you on the scale? You see that little tick right there, that little mark? I'm more resentful than forgiving. Do you feel like you stay angry or you forgive people quickly? Which is it? And so what happens is then I say, well, who are you angry at? Just give me the number one. And as you go through that, and I do this with guys, I sit over at the table at the Alano Club. I sit outside on a table, and I send them over there, and I make them do it. I sit there and take them through their inventory, and I get them to give me that rock. Give me that one big one. And there are about 26 or 27 of these, and you can see they all have an opposite. Fear, courage, self-pity, self-forgiveness, all these different forms of self, lying versus honesty, hate, love, jealousy, trust, envy. And when a man just goes through there and he looks and he sees that he's more on the liability side than the asset side, now I can start to teach him about the law of opposites. So that's one of the first things that I do. And when I get to step 6, I'm going to give you another practice. That shouldn't take more than a short period of time. And you should do that with people that you're sponsoring. You should teach them about the law of opposites and how they work. They're in the back of the book. And then it goes on from there because now I know what I'm solving for. I can't write an inventory if I don't know what I'm solving for. And I hear people say things like, well, just do it and you'll figure it out later. No, I want to know what I'm solving for. I want in the forefront of my thoughts and my mind, what is it that I'm looking for? I'm looking for the flaws in my makeup which cause me problems. My selfish, self-centered flaws, my sin nature. Resentment. Now it moves to the resentments. Resentment is the number one offender. That's anger, reworked over and over. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stems all forms of spiritual disease. For we have been not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. There it is. Here it comes. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Bang, I got a new spirit. I'm ready to go, but I still got this old thinking. How do I correct that? That's what this process is all about. We've listed them on paper. People, institutions, and principles with whom we are angry. Now, when I do this with people, I tell them, look, go sit over there. Thank you for the rock. That's good. We had a moment. All right. Now I want you to go back over there, and I want you to go back in your life, and I want you to write down the first person you can remember. Who's that? Oh, mother, father, grandma. Yeah. Who else? Brothers, sisters. Yeah. Who else? Cousins. Yeah. Who else? Aunts, uncles. Yeah. Keep going. Who else? First grade, second grade, third grade. And I do it in about 30 minutes. And I extract, by going back through their history, a great big list of people. And then they tell me, yeah, but I don't have a resentment. And you come to find out when you explain to them what it is, they got angry at all of them. You never got mad at any of them? Well, yeah, I got mad at all of them. Okay, and what did you do to get rid of that? Well, I didn't do anything. It's just, I guess I still have it. Right? But the easiest way to get through that inventory, because later on in the 10th step, it says we don't go into a morbid self-reflection. The easiest way is to go through that list and just write it down. We asked ourselves why we were angry. In most cases, so this is where we get the little columns, and we go do that. It's on the next page. And you know what I think we'll do? How are we doing on time? I got 1 minute. Okay. We asked ourselves why we're angry. In most cases, we found that our self-esteem, our pocketbook, our ambition, our personal relationships, including sex, were hurt or threatened, so we were burnt up. On our grudge list, our list of everybody we've ever met, right? Can anybody think of anybody they've ever met that they didn't hold something against? Come on now. Was it our self-esteem, our security, our personal ambitions, our sexual relationships that were interfered with? And then he gives us a very simple example. I'm going to wrap this up right here, and we'll pick up on the next part after that. So look at what he says. He's got Mr. Brown on his list, and he says why he's resentful at it, and then he puts what it affected. And what happens is a man goes through this, and like I said, it shouldn't take very long. We send people off with no directions and torture them. Sit at the table and try to do what it says. And they're like, why don't you help? Why don't you guide? Why don't you direct? It's pretty simple. But when we go back through that, you end up having these common manifestations. And there are 6 things that we're looking for. Where did it affect our selfish, self-centered self-esteem? So if you look on the page on the right, you make the list, and it tells you how to do it. First, you identify the person. You take the list, column 2. What's the big thing that bothered you? Willie Gergerich teased me. Called me a fat little kid. So I smacked him in the head. Right? Willie still pissed me off, and I was carrying it with me my whole life. It was still there. It was unresolved. Right? Identify which of the following were hurt, and it's a pick list. Pretty simple. Christ was crucified. To be crucified is a slow and painful process. The old nature in you does not want to die. It wants to raise up and control you again. That's why we address step 3 daily when we wake and when we're ready to take a look at the pain of our past. We are crucifying the old nature. We'll take a break right